welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is good to be back on the Overwatch League broadcast. I'm Achilleos, joined as always by Wolf, but sometimes he is joined by ZP, as we found out last week.
Hey, I mean, he did an all right job. I'm glad to have you back. I'm glad your surgery went well. For those who don't know, Achilleos was out last week because he had to get his appendix removed, but he's fine now, and he recovered very quickly. I was surprised you were able to make it this week.
I think almost regardless of my condition, I would have been back this week. I was losing my mind, not commentating any games. So it's been about 2 weeks now. Very sadly had to step away from last week's, but I am, I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be situated and to be in relatively good health. We'll see what happens when I get the hospital bill down the line, but that's a whole other worry. For now, we've got another great series coming up. This is going to be the Houston Outlaws going up against the Atlanta Reign. I mean, already, pretty elongated day of Overwatch League we have here. 4 matches in total, just now getting ready to jump into match number 3. And Atlanta's been a little off-kilter as of late, Wolf.
Yeah, they really have. I mean, both of these teams, as we talk about, we're heading into our May tournament here. Neither of them have a win yet in May, and Atlanta has looked a little bit inconsistent as of late. I think you can draw comparisons between Atlanta and Seoul Dynasty in terms of how well they do based on hero pools. Those are both really good teams at Double Shield, the Orisa Sigma composition. It's that kind of meta this week, so maybe they can bounce back. And then they're playing against Boston, so this should be, you expect an Atlanta win here.
Yeah, I mean, taking a look at the standings, of course.
Houston, excuse me. Yeah.
The Vancouver Titans were the only team up until just now who had not played a game so far, but now they have gotten that one out of the way. Unfortunately, not a victory for them, but still looking good considering how quickly that roster was put together for themselves. So I think that they can still hold their heads high after that loss. For Atlanta and Houston, as we said, they are looking for their first victories here in this May tournament. So we'll have to see which one of these two teams is going to be able to come out on top, because Atlanta has certainly had their ups and downs as of late. Houston has had their ups and downs since the beginning of time. So which Houston are we going to get today? Which Atlanta are we going to get today? And are we going to get to see Erster? We'll find out about that in just a little bit. We'll start off by taking a look at the starting 6 for the Houston Outlaws.
Yeah, Houston Outlaws bringing in Blase and Dante for the DPS roles, and you've got Muma and Meko as you'd expect, and it'll be Raucus and Jexay kind of filling things out right now. I like that finishing lineup, obviously with Brigitte unavailable for play this weekend. Jexay won't be able to play that, and as well, but we're seeing a lot of Lucio right now, so I do think that does give the Houston Outlaws a little bit of an edge, because Jexay is definitely one of their strongest players. You don't usually say that about a Lucio player, but I mean, he really is. Sometimes it looks like he's a DPS when he's playing the hero.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're going to be going, full in on the dive, having that extra mobility, that move speed coming through for the Orisa, especially if you're going to be running like a double barrier, is super essential. So having Jexay there makes a lot of sense for Houston. Over on the other side, though, this has been the big question mark roster, is what is the Atlanta Reign going to run? Taking a look at it, we can see that it's still going to be Edison and Baby Bay in for the DPS duo. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I mean, also Ana has been pretty present in the meta right now as well, so not too shocking to see Dogman coming through. We'll just have to see how he's going to be able to perform on the day, and if he can perform well enough to help his team find success and get that first victory here in the May tournament. Taking a look at our map set, though, let's see where we are headed. To start things off on Control, it will be Oasis. Then we'll move into Gibraltar, a map that I feel like it's been just forever since we've been able to commentate that one. So Gibraltar for Escort, King's Row for Hybrid, then Volskaya, and then back to Control with Nepal, Lijiang, and Busan, should we need to go to those extra rounds. But we'll see what happens as we get ready to jump into game number 1. And who can draw first blood on Oasis? And we will take a gander here and see what these teams are going to piece together, how much echo we're going to see. This is the other thing. First time that I'm going to get to commentate some good old echo action, so that is also very
fun.
exciting, and hopefully I don't get baited by the duplicate as we have seen from time to time.
Yeah, that does happen. It'll happen to you eventually, but we're
I'm
seeing
sure.
a little bit less echo this weekend so far. So definitely a smaller chance than what happened to me, ZP, and pretty much every other play-by-play caster that cast last weekend.
Well, we'll see if I can stay on top of it all and keep track of everything here. But it's been a while, so might have to shake a little bit of that rust off as we dive back into some good old Overwatch League. But for first round of Oasis will be University to start us off.
Yep, heading into this one, really going to set the stage for these two teams. I think for Houston Outlaws, if they can beat Atlanta here, I mean, this is one of your best bets to beat Atlanta in a double shield meta because you don't always see Orisa Sigma on control. Sometimes you can get away with dive. Sometimes you can, circumvent the double shield if that's what Atlanta's going to run because there's a lot of space to do so on control. So I feel like this is a really good opportunity for Houston to take an advantage and get that momentum in their favor. They're looking to start, though, themselves, the Orisa Sigma. Whereas Rain, with FRD in the lineup on the D.Va, look like they want to run a little bit more Sombra. See the teleporter to start.
We'll go ahead, push everybody forward with that one.
Junkrat for Blase, by the way, something he's been picking up quite a lot recently, and the Riptire potential can really reset a lot of the ult economy on this map, especially if you get that first cap.
Definitely can. Barrier's just going to be coming out for now. Once they lob those nades up over the top, looking for some kind of pick-off. Dante goes off to the left side flank and is just looking to build up towards that ult as quickly as he possibly can. Immortality Field's going to have to be used, keeping him alive for the moment there. Not able to break that one down. Positioned nicely behind the wall, so Houston Outlaws are all able to survive through the initial volley coming out from the Atlanta Rain, but now that that tool is gone, Mecha will be the first one to fall. FRD scooping the kill with the Rockets, and the first point lockdown going to be coming through for the Atlanta Rain.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure on the tank line for the Outlaws in these moments where, you've got to have that staying power on the point, and they got bio-naded early by Dogman, so couldn't really be in the front lines. They had to back off. Mecho's going to swap over to the Hog here. It's going to give him a lot more lockdown on the point. He can hit those hooks.
Already got that nice first hook coming through the pulse bomb from Medicine, manages to find a Raucus. Dogman going to be taken down. As one pick does come through for the Outlaws, but still very much going to be a fight victory for the Atlanta Rain.
Yeah, I think this Roadhog, is something we've been seeing a lot from New York. Ironically, Mecho, an ex-NYXL player. We've seen it a lot from Hoppa. It works better on hybrid and escort maps, I feel, than it does on a control map because you're going to potentially be able to hook those flankers, but otherwise approaching the point is so difficult, and you're going to give Baby Base so much free charge, so much EMP charges, an ult battery oftentimes.
Well, speaking of EMPs and ults, we'll see one come through, manages to catch out to 3. Bio-nade from Dogman, gets rid of Uma, also cut off Blase for a little bit of time there on the Torbjorn now. Hook gets the draw in onto Baby Bay. They managed to eliminate him for the fight, but is that going to be enough for the Houston Outlaws to make their way over onto the point? I have to wait and see. Another hook coming through as the Primal Rage gets popped by Gator. It instantly gets chunked out to a half HP. Does go ahead and exits back over towards the point with the rest of the squad to help buy some additional time. Outlaws just now starting to get a cap, but the contest comes back through for Rain as they continue to buy more and more time for themselves. Nano Boost now there onto Gator. He's going to get stunned up. Gets a shotgun blast to the face, but will be able to survive for a little bit longer. Edison picked off by Mecho, but they need to take this point right now with Jexay. One of their biggest delay tools already going to be eliminated. They get the Lucio off the wall. The hook is good. Mecho finds the headshot. Now will come out with a whole hog. Gets the break onto the mech and pushes Masa away. So the flip will finally be there for the Houston Outlaws, but not before 99% comes in for Atlanta.
And that's exactly what they wanted to fight for. They wanted the 99. They had a huge ult advantage, so they traded out sound barriers, for example. It looked like they were going to try to play around EMP to get the retake and win the first round, but actually Baby Bay is going to swap over to the McCree here. A little bit more ability to shut down Dante's flanks. That's one of the big problems they're facing is Dante getting into that back line. So I like this swap a lot, but it's a lot more risky than playing for that one EMP fight.
Yeah, Halt goes out from Muma. Meko not in a position to set up for the Halt hook combo. So it does still have that cooldown available, I do believe. Blase, he's got the Molten Core ready to go. Lay that down here at the opening on the point. Should the Rain try to push forward. So you can see them taking their time with this. They know that they have time on their side. They wait out the Amp Matrix. That expires. Pulse Bump dragging a few together. Gator and FRD going to be taking a little bit of damage there, but Dante unable to find any kills off the back side of it. Wrap around on the flank. FRD throws out the boulder, gets a knockdown, and Dante gets picked off. Jexay in the back line somewhere off screen does manage to find Baby Bay, alleviating a lot of pressure. The Molten Core will get rid of Edison, so now no damage available on the side of the Atlanta Reign, but they are still +40 here onto the point with the Coalescence rolling. Dogman trying to flip this one back into their favor. The Healing Orb will come out, and he will keep Gator sustained. That's going to be the ult out there from FRD.
Ooh, huge ult.
More. Yeah, halts them down into the bottom of the pit, and Gator does get scooped up by Dante. Flip was back in favor of the Atlanta Reign, now back over into the hands of the Houston Outlaws.
Very
Atlanta,
well played by
do they
Muma.
keep playing forward, or do they peel back? It looks like it's going to have to be the latter as Dogman dies on the back end.
This is rough. Dogman dead. I mean, he turned that into an Atlanta cap with Coalescence after Baby Bay died. Muma saves the day, though, and often criticized main tank here in the Overwatch League. That halt gets him back the point presence. Atlanta Reign doesn't have great initiation here. They don't have that supercharger yet. Houston in really good position if they can get that Molten Core to take this first round.
Deadeye is out. Pulse Bomb into the back. Dante not able to find anything, and Baby Bay just to play safe will go ahead, drop down into the pit. 97%, now 98, 99 coming through. We're into double OT as Baby Bay gets a nice flank, and he is just fanning the hammer right into the back of Muma's head. I was going to say something else, but Dogman with the Coalescence will be able to take down Dante. Edison traded out, but they need so much more, and it's just not going to happen. Dogman claims yet another one with the Coalescence. The Supercharger will be there to empower the rest of the Atlanta Reign, and they will be able to take round one on University. But this was a lot closer than a lot of people might have anticipated.
Yeah, definitely close. Looks like we're going to have a quick little pause here. A lot closer, I think, than most people would have expected. I think one of the big moments there at the end was the the wraparound we saw from Baby Bay. He was able to kill the Torb there, right? And that's a moment where, as Houston, where you've got to be aware that Baby Bay dropped down and he's going to wrap around, because they had no idea he was there. He gets a free flashbang and the Fan the Hammer kill onto the Torbjorn, and that's your win condition as the Houston Outlaws is, hey, we have this double shield comp we're running. We've got way more staying power on the point. We've got huge health pools with the heroes we're running. It's hard for them to burst through with something like a McCree and kill our Torbjorn in the first place. Molten Core is going to give us even more staying power with the Molten Core to spread over the point, meaning Atlanta Reign's going to struggle to even commit onto it with some of their slower moving heroes. So really smart move by Baby to drop down for safety. And then he got the free kills there. He kills Torbjorn, then he comes in and kills Muma there on the Orisa on the flank. And they just had no idea that he was coming from that angle. Someone's got to call that out. Someone's got to say, hey, like, he dropped down, he could wrap around. You've got to be careful about those flanks. That's really the winning moment there for the Atlanta Reign. Gave him a free team fight win. Yeah,
really good movement there from Baby Bay. Smart idea to just go ahead, drop into that pit, and then he just put himself in such a prime position. So worked out perfectly for himself and for the rest of the Atlanta Reign. But again, very close first round. So now that we are back through for round number 2 on City Center, we'll have to see if Atlanta can clean it up to take this 2-0, or if we will have that back and forth brawl and move into a third round.
How much Atlanta Reign's really wanting to commit with this McCree composition. I feel like it's so much riskier than just simply running the Sombra right now and fighting for those EMPs when you are ahead. In the neutral game, they are going to stick with it, though. It's a mirror to start things off. Tracer Sombra dive brawl here.
Oh, well. For now, neutral fight coming through as the point unlocks in 5 seconds. 3, 2, and 1. Point is now anyone's for the taking. FRD manages to mow Muma down. Just jetting his way through for that first kill of the round. Outlaws had gotten about halfway to that cap, but had to peel back without the main tank. And now will be the Reign locking down the point first and foremost yet again.
Yep, and it's going to be even sound barriers, but a much faster EMP for Baby Bay. This is looking really good for the Reign.
Pulse Bomb out. Masa going to be taken out. Really good assassination there from Dante, who himself will get hounded down by Edison, but in the chaos, The rest of the fight is very much going the way of the Houston Outlaws for now. Baby Bay going to be slept in the corner. The Bionade coming through. He does manage to escape with that translocator, and will have EMP available. It looks like the point going to be flipping back over here into the Houston Outlaws' favor for the first time on this round. So are on the board. They don't let him get the 99 this time, just going to be stopping him at 27%.
They should assume that Jexay has sound barrier. You know, Houston took a lot more damage in the earlier part of the fight. He barely doesn't, but they probably are going to try to play around that, try to look for a right-click hack or a big EMP that also connects with him. Baby Bay's waiting for that moment. There it is.
Yeah, EMP going to be coming through. Manages to catch both supports plus Meko. No chance of using a D-Matrix to try to mitigate any of this damage coming through, so both supports do fall. Meko will be able to stay in that mech for the time being and does have the self-destruct ready to go. And he's going to go ahead and pop this one. Jump around the corner, Gator keeping himself safe, but Masa pushes forward, kills Meko off with that right-click boob. So still looking very good on the retake. Sound barrier is still going to be committed. They do not have any tanks here, and the EMP will come through, but Masa in prime position gets the sound barrier off, keeping everybody protected. Despite the EMP coming through from Blase, the cleanup is there and Rain's back in control.
This is rough for Houston. I mean, they really were hoping that they were going to get the better trade there on the sound barrier. They weren't just hoping to delay. I think they really believed they could win that fight straight up, but they were wrong about that, and they, you know, fought for peanuts really in terms of that control meter. I mean, they only got about 15 extra %, whereas Atlanta Reign are about to pass them, now have the better EMP charge, better positioning, and all the advantages that Houston had. They could have just given the point then traded. They did not, and now they're in big trouble.
Edison with the pulse bomb ready to go. Tries to throw that one down. Meko very nicely does have the D-Matrix raised. Claims that pulse bomb, so doesn't find much of anything for that one, but is already building up towards his next at 42% as the rest of the team is cleaning up the members of the Houston Outlaws. A few remaining ones hightailing it back over towards the spawn.
Blase had to go back to spawn too, and he wishes he could have been out there charging up that EMP because that's their win condition. That's their only hope, is him getting a good EMP before Masa is ready to respawn, and it's just going to be so tough to do that.
Self-destruct lobbed way into the back. The bubble coming down from Muma helps protect him for a little bit longer, but Edison is right in on top of his face and will be able to find those headshots to take down the upset scientist. And we are now at 91% here on the board for the Atlanta Reign, with members still down for the Houston Outlaws, including Jexay, who they need to get alive and they need to get him over onto the point. They will be able to force out that OT. Tagging onto the point now, looking to reapproach as 6, but already one of them going to be taken down. Dante caught off on the side of the road, left out on the sidewalk as Masa manages to find that kill. Edison going low, lobs in with a pulse bomb, gets rid of Jexay. A huge pickoff here for Edison. Let's see what else he's got. Primal Rage is rolling from Uma, but he does not have that much HP. And now the ult will expire. Blase manages to find one as Gator will be taken down. FRD gets the self-destruct online, and Masa is still holding on to yet another sound barrier. But Blase picked off moments before he would have an EMP online. They get shoved off the point. It ticks down. That's going to be 147%. Atlanta Reign taking the first map of the series.
That was a classic engage there from Atlanta Reign. They know Blase is trying to get EMP. He's very close to that. You know, he's like halfway there, right? And so, in their mind, he might even be closer than that. So they take the fight to the Houston Outlaws. They drop the self-destruct outside of spawn, take that team fight away from the point. So there's no way that they can end up losing control of the point in any way based on an EMP fight, based on a pick. If they end up taking an even fight there, or even losing that fight, they're going to have their own EMP re-engage. They know that they're going to build up the last part of their own sound barrier, as Masa was able to do in that extended fight. So they're ready for that EMP follow-up from Houston if it happens. And that's a really smart decision to take. You want to take that fight off the point when it's Sombra v Sombra, especially on control, and it works for Assault as well. And it was really well played by Atlanta Reign. Mechanically, Edison looking on fire on the Tracer as well in this first map.
Yeah, he really has. So maybe we just see this throughout the rest of the series if it keeps working. Time will tell, and we will find out. But coming up next, we're going to have Gibraltar for Escort. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be back in just a few.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, helping you stay connected to what matters most. Learn about T-Mobile's COVID-19 response on T-Mobile.com.
And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. The Overwatch League is brought to you by HyperX. Unleash your style, unleash your fury with HyperX Fury Memory. And by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are just one map into this series between the Houston Outlaws and the Atlanta Reign. The latter was able to take map number 1 of Oasis with a 2-0 victory, but there was a lot of back and forth in there, Wolf, so it seems like this series has life yet.
I mean, there's definitely life in this series, to be sure. I feel like Houston Outlaws has a really good game plan going into this. I like how Muma is playing the Orisa overall. I love to see Sombra Tracer out of Houston. They're pretty good at it. I think they just need to be a little bit more careful with their ult decisions. But a lot of the stuff that first map boiled down to at the end of the day was small advantages that Atlanta Reign had, and then just they never really made mistakes after that, right? You know, the last engage we saw where they took the fight to the Sombra, I think is one of those moments where, as Houston, you can't really blame, like as a Houston fan, you can't be like, well, they screwed that one up. It's kind of checkmate in that situation. So yeah, Atlanta just playing smart, and that's what you expect from a team that's, you know, built around a lot of veterans from Overwatch League and also contenders, both, you know, NA and Korea. Some of the best players around the world form this team, and people forget that sometimes, but Atlanta is a stacked roster.
They certainly are, which is why we expected a bit more from them so far here in the 2020 season, but they're looking to get back on the horse. We'll go ahead and take a look at the map set, just in case you missed it earlier or you tuned in a little bit late, and remind you that we are, in fact, headed to Watchpoint Gibraltar for our escort map. So, like I said, it's been a little bit of time, I believe, for you and I, Wolf, since we've commentated this one, so excited to get back in and see what the strats are going to look like this time around, because we do have snipers available.
Yeah, I really like the map pool this week. It's it feels like it's really changed up how people are playing quite a lot, and there's a lot of variety of strategy you can see on this week's map pool. You know, Sniper is very viable on Gibraltar, but I think Echo is as well during certain parts of the map, especially the end of the map where there's a lot of space. So I think that's certainly something we could see from these two squads.
Already seeing a hover over Widowmaker for Edison. It will be the Houston Outlaws starting off on defense, so Edison still has plenty of time to change things up.
Yeah, I think FRD is going to look for that opening hook, potentially. You know, you're going to see Edison try for the open snipe, and once he sees what the Outlaws are running, like, for example, if there was going to be Dante on McCree, for example, and he might stick with it a little bit longer, but when he sees its dive, he's also going to swap over to Tracer. You know how it goes. Although, well, Gator probably should look for that halt potential for the hook. I think he'll probably swap as well. Orisa Hog on Gibraltar is tough to pull off, way harder than it is on Junkertown.
Well, yeah, looking for that initial pull out of the hallway there along the walkway, so we'll just be the swap over. Yeah. So yeah, going to be matching. So almost mirrored compositions. Rock is still going to be on the Ana for the anti-dive. See if he has much success for that. Already though, Cart is just going to be rolling through into the car wash.
Gotta play
underpass,
here,
whichever term tickles your fancy.
Yeah. Rock is doing a ton of extra damage there, actually almost getting that pick. It would have been huge. But now they actually have to commit.
46%.
Yeah, they need to commit here to drop down onto FRD. They can't let him get free push.
See them taking their time, constantly shifting points of the battle. Atlanta Reign now wrapping around from behind as FRD comes through. Edison will find the first kill as Raucus will get taken down. Was doing really solid stuff with that Ana early on, but now is out of the fight as Edison tries to get this first pulse bomb online. Going to be at 70% now. Several nice headshots through onto the enemy. Winston is just surging forward with that huge ultimate, but Dante gets there a little bit faster. Well, now we'll have to see who has the more impactful pulse bomb, or if they're both just going to be completely worthless whiffs.
There's the bomb.
Pulse coming through from one. Edison unable to find anything. Dante's still going to be holding on to his. The Coalescence comes down. Dogman has to peel back, so neither pulse bomb finding any kills. But Edison does get taken down, so now a lot of pressure, a lot of damage is going to be removed from the fight, but they lose a frontline member to the Houston Outlaws, with Muma getting taken down earlier on. EMP is getting ready to come up for both of the Sombras. We'll see who pulls the trigger first, as Gator has already been eliminated. EMP comes out from Baby Bay and manages to catch several members on the side of the Houston Outlaws. As they continue to get swept up, Raucus now going to be under pressure, taken down in the back line with just 0.98 meters left to go. It seems like Atlanta Reign should have this one in hand. Muma with a Primal Rage will buy a little bit of extra time, even finds that kill onto Dogman, but now will be finished off as the ult expires, and it seems like it's just a matter of time before this rolls through and the time bank gets bumped up.
I gotta give props to Masa, extremely patient here. Even though it looked like his team was gonna potentially lose that fight multiple times, he held the EMP, and then when Blaze's EMP was pretty lackluster, he also knew he could hold that sound barrier. I can hold this. I don't need to use this right now. I'm gonna wait until it's absolutely necessary when Outlaws have the rejoin. Full 6-man roster and we need that extra shield, that's when I'm going to drop this down. So great patient play helps them secure the end there. And again, they have this better position versus the Houston Outlaws, even though they're up on top of this shuttle or whatever you want to call it.
Dropship.
Dropship thing.
Either way.
They got to burn cooldowns to drop down, so it's rough.
Got Primal here from Gator. Collapses in onto Jexay with the help of Baby Bane. They managed to find that kill. Primal now going to be expiring. And the cart has just basically been free rolling this entire time. Muma's going to be eliminated by the Coalescence. The Pulse Bomb out from Edison. Unable to find any kills. Dante as well, though. Not going to be able to find a pick-off. And he is just going to fall, and the cart will go ahead and glide through.
Yeah.
And suddenly we're at 4 minutes 45 seconds for the final stretch of Gibraltar.
I want to explain, too, that high ground is not always an advantage in dive versus dive. The team that gets to use their cooldown second always has an advantage. So if you're on the low ground and Houston's on the high ground and they want to really commit in with their thrusters and their leap from Winston, then Atlanta Reign gets to use their cooldowns however they want. They're already on the point. They already have that positional advantage. They've got a Sombra for extra peel. It's really tough if you're the Outlaws to fight from that angle.
EMP comes through, manages to catch both of the tanks. The self-destruct nearly finishing off Raucus. He will survive with a sliver of HP. The front line completely broken down as Atlanta Reign will not adhere. They will not back down. They just continue to press forward here. And it is looking very dire for the side of the Houston Outlaws. They need to get some time off this time bank, if not stop the cart.
Yeah, Masa's got a sound barrier, so I mean, he can counter this EMP really well. They can actually kind of stick around, regroup, and push this fight one more time.
Yeah, I mean, first one to use the sound barrier there is Jexit, but only finds himself and Meko for the shielding. And the Atlanta Reign, they just peel back, so they play very safely around that ult. Let the shields expire. Now the Coalescence coming through from Dogman, looking to top everybody back up, and now they just wait patiently for the EMP, which does come through. Masa drops the beat, catches everybody who got caught by that EMP. FRD still going to be pulsed out of that mech, but the rest of the team is looking rather good. Edison falls a little bit low, has the recall come off cooldown, goes straight back into the fight, and continues to build up for that next pulse bomb. Cart inching closer and closer with 3 minutes and 12 seconds remaining.
He forced that Primal out of Muma, too. I mean, this guy is actually just on top of everything. Muma's losing the Winston battle.
Self-destruct comes through, but the EMP now comes out from Baby Bay, manages to catch onto 4 members. They're looking for the kills. Mecha will not be able to make it back into the suit. The Primal Rage gaining both of the supports back into the spawn, completely keeping them contained for the moment. But Muma has at least established a little bit of a forward front here for the side of the Houston Outlaws. He has to peel back, however, and now Jexay is going to be gone. Dogman with yet another Coalescence. It feels like the 17th that he's gotten on this map alone has just been building these up so consistently. Hoses down another one for a kill. Masa will get in on the action as he eliminates Meko, and they will be able to glide through. So just over 2 minutes for that final stretch of Gibraltar. They finish with 2:32 in the time bank.
Houston tried to operate on high grounds there. The shuttle, the carrier, whatever you want to call it, the space shuttle looking thing, they operated before that obviously on the high ground around A above the car wash, where you have to jump down eventually to challenge FRD, who's got the push. But, you know, it's so easy to just use your cooldown seconds if you're the Reign. And if you're Houston, you jump down without your cooldowns. Like, for example, as they did, you know, Muma doesn't leap down. He literally just presses spacebar to jump down, so he still has his cooldown. So a little bit more mobility. You can get hacked by Baby Bay. You can get chunked down to half health with Edison poking you. And Edison is doing actually such a great job of putting out consistent damage, not always going for the backline, not always threatening Raucus or Jexay, but actually forcing Muma to primal on that C point early in the fight, which meant that Gator could play back. They kind of slowed down, played passively, looked for that follow-up EMP. Moss's sound barrier was perfect. Barely saved Dogman, but he's not getting caught by EMPs, whereas Jexay, you know, has been. And Jexay is one of those players that you and I in Contenders Korea would always champion for being such a great anti-EMP Lucio player. But he's getting caught a few times here with the Outlaws. The coordination's a little bit sloppy. See if Atlanta Reign plays a more aggressive defense here. I mean, from the start, it looks like the answer is yes. They're not just going to sit back on the high ground and wait. They're going to take the fight to the Outlaws. They're going to collapse in early. The Outlaws need to identify this quickly or it might just get owned.
Well, already Baby into the back, sitting outside of the spawn. Gets jumped on. Both he and Edison taking quite a bit of damage, but are getting topped back up. Dogman himself has to use the health pack to stay in the fight. So they continue to play forward. Bionade, however, catches on the 2. Dogman going to be eliminated, and FRD will get knocked out of the mech. So a big opportunity here for the Houston Outlaws to gain some distance. And yeah, will be a 4-for-1 exchange. Only Meko falling so far. As Dante tries to find this kill onto Edison, will finally be able to go ahead, smack him in the back of the head.
Yeah.
And that card can start rolling. So really good turnaround on this fight for the Houston Outlaws.
If you think about the time, though, that Atlanta was able to get for free on their push with Houston's waiting there, like this actually ends up being pretty okay for Atlanta. They didn't give up too much ult charge either. So, you know, it makes you wonder if this shouldn't become a little bit more standard. They're going to actually challenge this high ground first. Atlanta is and jump up. Pulse ball misses.
Doesn't find much in the way of that. Dante, however, gets the stick, and he's going to get a 2-for-1 special. Gator and Masa both eliminated by the explosion. One less member in that front line, and FRD under fire will just get absolutely destroyed out of that mech and finished off the sleep dart final blow coming through. Always a rare occurrence, but always lovely to see as Raucus finishes off that baby D.Va. And they will be able to glide forward into A, and Houston Outlaws making good pace, but this is where they can get slowed up. If they get moved off this cart once, reapproaching through the hangar can be so difficult.
This is actually one of those moments, too, where it shows like being an aggressive defender actually can really hurt you. It's coming back to bite the Atlanta Reign in a lot of these fights where they go in first. There's the EMP from Blase.
Yeah, had the sleep connect onto Baby Bay just moments before that. 4 members caught by the EMP. A follow-up hack now onto FRD as he just does not get an opportunity to mitigate anything with that defense matrix. This gets completely focused, fired out. The Baby D.Va is still there, and he will be able to pistol his way back into the mech, however, and this is what I'm talking about. The fight turnaround comes through. They turn this on its head against the Houston Outlaws. They have 5 ultimates, but still getting back into the hangar. There's 2 chokes that you have to walk through.
Yeah, and Atlanta
really,
Reign,
if you're counting, you know, vertically, but this can be difficult.
Atlanta Reign is just trying to out-mechanic Houston Outlaws in these longer fights, and with Edison on the roster, you can do that a lot of the time. You know, they don't have sound barrier for this next fight, but, you know, Blase doesn't even have EMP. He used it, obviously, so you feel pretty good as Reign here.
Well,
there's
stick
the
comes
pulse
through straight into the face of Gator, and that will force out the primal rage from him. And a boost going to be used on the movement. EMP now comes out from Baby Bay, catches up 4, but Jexay has that perfectly timed sound barrier to come through. It's not enough to keep Meko in the mech, but he's got that self-destruct to go ahead and get back through. And for his trouble, he'll also find Masa. So now there's no supports in the fight, no main tank. And the off tank is taking a bit of a nap, then hacked and knocked out of the mech. So Houston Outlaws have broken through, and they can get that cart rolling. See what kind of time they can establish for themselves. It was a decent time by here for the Reign, and they still can recontest before this gets to be.
Houston Outlaws, you know, are really playing a very great defensive game here on top of the cart, using their ults very efficiently. Jexay blocked that last EMP, the first really good EMP counter sound barrier he's had. Now they're playing a little bit more forward so that Atlanta is going to have a tough time re-engaging. Here's the EMP to lock them in.
And that's going to be a 5-man EMP coming through from Blase. Perfectly lined up. Dogman the first one to fall, and Masa just hacked. Also didn't have a sound barrier ready to go to try and counter that one. So Atlanta Reign just lose out on this fight, barring a miraculous turnaround. Edison will be able to find one with a pulse bomb, but the cart continues to roll forward. Yeah, and that will be it reaching point B. So just over 4 minutes.
It's so obvious that Atlanta's going to re-aggress there. They've been playing so aggressively throughout this entire defense. That's going to be almost a kill there on the Gator. Well, actually, he does go down, doesn't escape. At least he gets the jump, but they know they're gonna dive back in, right? So they prepare the EMP. They set up in such a way that Atlanta Reign's gonna get caught in that choke and get caught in half by the EMP. And Blase's gonna build another one so quickly they feel good to use it. Atlanta Reign's whole game plan has been to burn the time bank, but Houston Outlaws is on track for a similar one here. As long as they can win this next fight, and Baby Bay's EMP being 20% ahead might be the one thing that Atlanta Reign really has advantage-wise here to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, but before he gets that EMP, Jexay should have the sound barrier ready to go as a counter. Muma trying to get that Primal Rage online, gets nanoed, but even with that damage reduction, Baby Bay manages to find the kill, farms the rest of that EMP. So it will just be clean up here for the Reign as they push forward back into the hangar and try to finish off the staggering members of the Houston Outlaws. Jexay will be allowed to survive for a little bit longer, but already Atlanta Reign are guaranteeing themselves a superior time bank, if not a hold on this cart here for the final stretch.
Yeah, but this is where things get really scary for the Outlaws, because you know Blase doesn't even have EMP yet. He's got to be careful. They're going to have to EMP second, but you know you can feel your time bank falling apart here, so you're trying to be aggressive.
EMP comes through. Jexay again has the sound barrier ready to go. Answering
Masa's caught.
EMP comes out from Blase. FRD going to be knocked out. Masa uses that sound barrier now on the back and only loses out on the mech so far, as Mecha will get finished off by Gator with the Primal Rage. And just like that, it was looking very good in the execution at the start of the fight for the Houston Outlaws, but Atlanta Reign managed to persevere.
Yeah, just they're getting out mechanic even without abilities, even with the big 6-man hack there coming through and Masa being caught in it, unable to sound barrier during EMP. And they're just getting gunned down in these neutral fights. Raucus didn't have nano because he used it previously, and that's a huge tool they were missing. They're in big trouble now.
Yeah.
They might not be able to finish this map anymore. They're way behind in ultimates.
Edison playing up near the front, has that pulse bomb still, doesn't find the opportunity to use it, but look at Baby Bay lapping Blase significantly here, over 90% towards that next EMP.
That's the big one. That's the big ult advantage
and Jexay is still 40% away from that next sound barrier. He's under fire. Edison tries to find the pulse bomb stick on him, is unable to do so. The EMP gets thrown out there by Baby Bay, catches 3 members. Will be an exchange on the Winstons thus far, as Muma and Gator will both fall. He was pushing forward. FRG running a bit low on HP. Will not be able to make it back to the safety of his supports. Gets hacked out as he tries to remech and survive. Will manage to make it around the corner and can get back in.
Nano out, interestingly. This might not be where they wanted to use it.
Yeah, just consistently dumping these nano boosts in onto Muma, who's looking for a target, but doesn't really have a corner to back anybody into. Does manage to displace Dogman enough, and he didn't have that shift up to get himself out to safety. So both supports will be taken down here. The cart's still
EMP
advancing
now.
with 48 seconds.
Yeah, that nano boost might have actually been the play, actually. They were able to force that through with sound barrier on top of it. They know Baby Bay doesn't have EMP.
They managed to find one tag. The EMP comes through. Edison gets hacked out, finished off. The rest of the tanks now rejoining. Sound barrier comes through from Masa. Knows that he can use that one relatively safely, and he will be able to find the first kill as Jexay gets taken down. Looking for a little bit more now. Gator gonna be stuck. Goes low. Jumps up into the top. Drops the bubble, but it's not enough for him to stay alive. Another trade out on the Winstons, however, is Dogman with Coalescence manages to find Muma. Masa picked off again. But with 15 seconds remaining, you see the Houston Outlaws. They're going for the Hail Mary. They're waiting for all 6 members to be back.
Baby Bay has EMP.
And then they will go in for the finish.
He's got the EMP. There it is.
Yep, EMP comes through. Jexay going to be caught. Raucus as well. Cannot use the nano boost. The self-destruct from Echo. Unable to find anything. And Muma's still going to be hacked. Can't get the Primal Rage online. Will get finished off at 89%. OT bleeding away. No one can make their way over to the cart. You can see the Sombra just now coming out of stealth a little bit too late to try and extend that fight a little bit longer. Dogman says C9. That's incorrect, and you should all harass him for saying that. But that is 2-0 for the Atlanta Reign.
Yeah, nice finish there for Atlanta Reign. I have to say, Houston Outlaws, you know, I was probably wrong about what I was saying about Raucus there. He forced the fight to be on their terms, right, with the nano boost there. And Jexay used the sound barrier. They knew that previously Baby had just EMP'd, so they didn't need the sound barrier. It was a really brave move. I actually appreciate the Outlaws trying to make that work. But at the end of the day, they used all of those tools. It was a gamble they took. They thought maybe we could force this in. We've got one chance here. We've got this tiny ult advantage. Maybe we could keep snowballing in the spawn like Atlanta Reign did to them. But Atlanta just had too many ultimates. And we're talking about Edison, who can just do so much ultless even, you know, even Pulse Bomb notwithstanding. So Atlanta Reign just kind of, I feel like, out-mechanicking Houston Outlaws throughout a lot of that map, even though Houston Outlaws made a lot of good decisions. So I think the series is closer than it looks, but, you know, Houston is just one step behind.
Yeah, so it's still, like you said, closer than it would appear given the 2-0 scoreline that we see at the moment. But Atlanta Reign, they do lead in this. They are one map away from getting their first victory here in the main tournament. So Houston Outlaws, yet again, in a position where they have to try and pull off a reverse sweep. We're going to see if they can do just that when we see you guys on the other side of halftime.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by ZipChair Gaming, the official chair supplier of the Overwatch League, and by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
Hello and welcome to our game break presented by Cheez It Grooves. I am Zoe and joining me are Costa and Reinforce, and the Atlanta Reign are currently up 2-0. If we're looking at the matches so far, however, I do feel like the first one ended up being a lot closer than what we would have initially expected, I dare say. However, Atlanta Reign just managed to come out a little bit more clean and win the fights overall. What are you guys' impressions?
Yeah, I think Atlanta overall with Dive, they just seem significantly more coordinated, especially once the fights break down. The best teams that play Dive, when everything breaks down, they still work as a unit. People are still helping each other. People are still using their ults in unison. We're not really seeing that from the Houston Outlaws. It feels like, especially once if they have the time to set up a fight, it's fine for the Houston Outlaws. But as soon as everything starts breaking down, they just start throwing their ults willy-nilly. You know, we're throwing D.Va bombs while Muma can't jump in. We have cooldowns off. People are going back. People are going forward. It just seems a little all over the place, and that's where Atlanta's getting the advantage in this match.
Yeah, I feel like...
Reinforce, you had an issue with their tempo specifically, looking at the Houston Outlaws.
Yeah, especially when you play these dive compositions. I mean, there's no like real concept, like we haven't named it or anything. But when you play these dive compositions, it's almost like waves going back and forth, engaging, disengaging, and you sort of have a flow back and forth. And I think Wolf hit the nail on the head that, yes, Atlanta Reign, they're just out mechanically skilling the Houston Outlaws. They have better ability usage, they have a better mechanical usage, and they just look a lot more crisp. And it stems from the Houston Outlaws, in my opinion. They like get one or two things wrong, and then they sort of get like themselves tripped up, and then you're 1 or 2 seconds behind the flow of the Atlanta Reign, and that's where Atlanta Reign can start abusing the mistakes of the Houston Outlaws. So when you're playing these dive compositions, it's very important that you're on point and you have great synergy with the ability usage. For example, like if Muma leaps in, then the rest of the team has to be ready to go in with him, because otherwise what will happen is Muma goes in, he drops his bubble to protect himself, but then he has to fall back, and then you don't have that shield to help the rest of the team move forward when you take space. And just these small things, I mean, it just... Houston Outlaws, they keep getting hicked up on random abilities, and it's not like looking clean at all, and it's not looking smooth, whereas the Atlanta Reign, they engage together, they disengage together, and they always make sure that they have the abilities synchronized and they utilize them together as a team, and that's a big difference maker.
Absolutely. Now, if we're comparing two players head to head, of course, the ones we have to go for are the Tracer players, and that made it into our crunch time presented by Cheez It Grooves. Let's take a look at Dante and Edison's Tracer stats for this one. Guys, run us through the numbers. What do you take from this?
It's interesting because Dante's actually doing significantly more damage than Edison, but he's dying almost twice as much, and Edison's getting twice as many eliminations. So it's kind of interesting to sort of look at this. That probably means that Dante's shooting at more of the tanks while Edison's focusing on the backline and the squishier targets. So I think, you know, these are both phenomenal players on these rosters. Dante is, you know, one of the best Western Tracers that we have in this league, and Edison has come into this from contenders and is just absolutely decimating on this Tracer. So it's really interesting to see how the different styles are matching up now that we're moving towards like a dive matchup, because the way you play Tracer in dive is completely different how you would play it in, you know, sort of bunker or deathball.
Yeah, I just got mad PTSD when you said that probably means that Tracer is shooting more tanks because he has more damage. I've heard that a lot of times in my time as an Overwatch analyst. Yeah, but I think when you look at this match, moving into the second half, etc., I feel like the Houston Outlaws, the way they are playing, that sort of works with a Brigitte, in my mind, because you can slow down the tempo a little bit and you can play with that Brigitte. But when it comes to playing these compositions with a Moira and a Lucio, I feel like you have to step up the tempo a little bit more. You can't just spend your time trying to win the poke battles between the shield wars with the tanks and that kind of stuff. I feel like you have to be more aggressive, and that's where I think you should look at teams like the Paris Eternal and how they played earlier today, and you can learn a lesson or two from that aggression and how that works with the support duo, in my opinion. So I want to see the Houston Outlaws be a bit more aggressive and a bit more relentless, and when you are so simple-minded and just focus on diving aggressively, maybe that will make the team be more in touch with each other and be more in tune with each other, because you have that one idea, rather than sometimes trying to poke back and kill the tanks, and sometimes you're trying to go aggressive and you just trip each other up. So, you know, stay a bit more simple-minded. Just go in. Just dive. Just
Be simple-minded. That is our advice
You
from
agree,
the
Costa?
halftime.
Yeah, no, at some point in dive, it is as simple as we just need to dive and we need to be going more aggressive. Sometimes you don't need to overthink it. I did want to highlight, it's cool to see dive again. It feels like it's been so long since we saw this in a match and being played by the pros, and we're starting to see old habits and old sort of strategies come back in, and people need to refine it and get back to the former dive glory that was 2 years ago at this point.
I mean, say one thing about dive. It is entertaining. It is fast-paced, and it is really fun to watch. So let's see if the Outlaws can speed it up a little bit in the second half. I'm really struggling speaking English today.
happens to the best of us.
I'm very tired, and I apologize for all of that. Now, this wraps up our halftime presented by Cheese Grooves. We will head into the next match, or rather in the second half. See, I'm continuing my streak. We're heading into the second half in just a little bit, but before that, we actually have a really cool video, a sneak peek for you of our new series called Play by Play presented by Pringles. We had a former NFL player, Spice Adams, watching the Overwatch League for the first time ever. And thankfully, he had the help of Sideshow to walk him through it.
All right, Spice, I feel like you've got a fairly good grasp on the game right now. Do you want to try and take us through the next couple of fights?
I thought you never asked. Echo just
Sorry, I
eliminated
interrupted you there,
Dante with a sticky bun.
Don't
and
worry
now
about it
she's
at
sticky
all.
bumming everybody. She just eliminated somebody, mama. And she just eliminated Zigzer and Bob. Bob tried to Leroy Jenkins it, and bam, she came from up top right now, but she's not running out of fuel because she's a robot. And she's passing the assist right now. She's defending everybody. She got an orb of harmony. Somebody came with like a guitar and she just played a harmony really fast. Boom, she just teleported back up to the air, got another orb of harmony. Bring, and then now she just turned her hand to a waffle. She's going through the train station, and then one of her friends came there to order Discord, so now she played the wrong tune. Ba-ding, she played the wrong tune again because we had an orb of Discord. If you get an orb of harmony, that's totally different. But anyway, boom, she just took the sticky bomb to somebody on Gibraltar. Bam, now she got the force field. Oh, she just changed it to somebody else. She changed somebody and turned to a whole waffle. Now she's bumming down the hood. She just shooting everybody. Bang, bang, bang. She picking everybody up. Oh, boom, then she turned back to herself. Oh, it's very bad for Echo right now. She said, oh, but now she gets back up. She just had a cheeseburger. Oh, but then she just got eliminated. She's falling out the sky. Oh, man, it's crazy.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are now at match point here in this series between the Houston Outlaws and the Atlanta Reign. It's been pretty close, but it just hasn't been close enough for the Houston Outlaws, so they now find themselves down 0-2. Have to pull off a reverse sweep if they want to find their first victory here in the May tournament.
Yeah, it's looking rough if you're a Houston fan. There's like small pieces, right, of greatness. I feel like Muma's had a few strong moments, like here and there, especially on the Orisa on control. We're seeing, Dante playing really, really well, as he always does. He wishes he could play the Tracer and the Sombra at the same time, but alas, he's only one player. And the coordination overall, it's not that bad, to put it in a kind of weird, nice Houston way. But it's just not as good as Atlanta's, right? Atlanta is just one step ahead. Arister is playing god-tier levels of Tracer. Sorry, I wish it was Arister, but it's actually Edison this time. We never get to see Arister. But yeah, I know. Edison, even though Arister's on my mind, is the one, playing god-tier Tracer. And it feels like sometimes even when Houston's ahead in ult economy, they don't use it properly, and then Edison kills somebody or forces movement to primal at a weird time, and then it just all falls apart.
Yeah, it's been unfortunate so far for the Houston Outlaws, but now we'll see if that fire is lit under their rear ends and they can pull off a reverse sweep or at least get some wins on the board here. We'll go ahead and take a look at the map set just to remind you where we're headed. It's going to be Hybrid coming up next with King's Row. So this is the moment that they really have to get settled in and pull off some map victories. Try and take this one back into their hands. Houston Outlaws, backs against the wall. Can they pull it off? They've done reverse sweeps before. They are very much not strangers to Game 5 situations historically. Historically, though, Game 5s have never really been their forte. But we'll see if they can make it happen here today.
Yeah, that's the question, right? And King's Row is a map that in other hero pools, you would feel really differently about how it was going to pan out, right? Because oftentimes it's tough to run dive on this map because of all the choke points and how narrow the streets phase of the map is. Sometimes, especially when Brigitte is in play, which she's not this week, it's very difficult to run the Tracer, very difficult to run the Sombra. Sombra can get a lot of value with EMP, but charging EMP it takes a lot longer on this map because you have less freedom to move around. So you're kind of reliant on your translocator to get in the back line, charge up a little bit, then jump back. Because you can't stick around long or you're just going to get burned down, especially with how good teams have gotten at dealing with Sombra. So this is where, double shield, I think, is going to be a little bit more prevalent, especially on A. And I think that Atlanta Reign, they're the stronger team for that. So, on attack, we'll see what they decide to run, but on defense, that's what I expect. So I think that Houston needs to have a really strong defense themselves, or they're going to find themselves in trouble. If Atlanta finishes with a strong time here, I don't know how well Houston's really going to do on their initial attack. So that's what I'm most worried about. So this first defensive A, it needs to be really good. And they're going to run Linkser on the McCree here. So a substitution, a smart one. And they're going to go for that range, as well as a little bit of extra peel for the dive heroes, should we encounter them. And Atlanta is running that Tracer Sombra to start things out.
Yeah, so seeing the bunker set up on the high ground there, Edison not even going to try to go for any kind of headshot, knows that it's just not going to happen. Good crossfire set up here for the Houston Outlaws as the accretion will connect in with FRD, who's taking a lot of damage off screen right now. Dante going to be pushing back up here alongside the Orisa and Sigma.
Very close call there for FRD if he does get healed up.
And he does. Stun on Tomasa. Leap up here onto the high ground from Gator, trying to build up.
They've got to jump onto the point.
Discord orb, so he's got to peel back. Bionade connects on the two. Raucous and Jexet both going to be anti for the moment, but no one able to get into a position to capitalize on top of that one. And FRD's just going to be losing out on that mech. Dante finally finding it for himself. Hydration, however, left out to dry a bit on the point. Falls low, will get taken down in the end. They keep him alive for a lot longer than you might have anticipated, given the Bionade investment as well as the Immortality Field. That does pay dividends for them in buying some time.
Very close
Nearly
call.
getting a tick.
Yeah.
Pulse Bomb now comes through. Dante gets rid of Gator, breaking down that front line again. FRD finally makes his way back into the mech.
Reign needs to regroup
here. It's been a long while without that.
Yeah, they need to regroup. Edison gets a pick. And
managed to find one first tick.
I appreciate FRD's attempt here. He gets the tick, but Houston is not going to fall for this. They're not going to take the bait and jump down. They're going to keep this high ground position. Sure, they lose a tick, but I think it's worth it to keep that high ground.
Fuck, you needed a hit.
Here. Deadeye coming out up top. Lynx are not going to be able to find too much. Rockus, however, clicking heads, finds Dogman and Masa. Now Gator going to fall. He also gets Edison.
This is so smart.
Swapped over onto that Genji, and yeah, Rockus starting to pop, looking
Houston
very much in form.
They have like a concave of damage. They've got Raucus in the center. They have Lynxer on the left side. And it's difficult for Rain to dive all parts. And with the immortality field that Jexay has to deny that dive damage, Atlanta Rain is feeling a little bit uncomfortable. They're going to swap Edison over to the Genji here to look for a Dragon Blade engage. But so much time has already been burned off the clock. I love this setup for the Outlaws. I love the Lynxer substitution. And just trying to use FRD to force a jump down is not working.
No, it is not. Shots coming through. Hydration under some fire. Let's fall low. FRD loses on the mech again. 2 ticks going to be gained. EMP comes in. Manages to find a few, but Raucus has the perfectly timed Transcendence coming in, but Hydration still falling as Baby finds that kill. They continue to tick up, and somebody has to contest the point right now, but they're going to be unable to do so. So it will go the way of the Atlanta Rain. A lot of time drained away, however, by the Houston Outlaws.
Yeah.
Who start changing some things up. We'll see if Raucus is going to stick through with this Zenyatta or not.
I think Lynxer will probably have to swap as well eventually, but he's got Deadeye. We'll see how long he can hold on to this. They got a little bit too patient there. The Transcendence was a little bit late from Raucus. And, you know, you can say, okay, FRD, you can stay on the point, but I'll just kill you every time you try to do that for only so long until Atlanta Rain puts more people on the point and forces that reaction. And they were a little bit too slow on that last fight, but I really liked the setup there, and it did, as you say, buy a lot of time. Lynxer sticking with this McCree. It's going to force out a Primal there, that hook.
Gator taking a little bit of damage. Dragon Blade will come through from Edison, just kind of slicing it the air. Gets hooked back through and will get finished off Lynxer with a headshot, cutting down that Genji. We'll see if he's going to be swapping off of that one now. I would expect so.
Yes, I think so.
As Lynxer continues to find some kills here.
We talk about Edison as a really flexible DPS player, especially in terms of hit scan, but never really known for his Genji. Not really in his wheelhouse. He's not really been much of a strong projectile player. You can think of him as similar to Sinatra in a lot of ways in terms of hero pool, but yeah, the Dragon Blade there shut down by Meko and not a lot of value, but he was planning on swapping, as you alluded to, anyways. But Houston still burning that clock. I mean, small victories, but you'll take them if you're the Outlaws here. They're going to have a whole hog soon, too, in the choke. It's very potent.
Dante with the Pulse Bomb online will go ahead and use the recall first. Still deep in behind enemy lines, but isn't under too much fire, and gets the one clip there. Stick comes through, softening up Gator quite a bit. They cannot get the finish on the enemy Orisa, but they still manage to find 2 picks. Dogman falling low, as well as Masa, who will go ahead and get picked off at the end by Raucus. So 1:50 remaining on the clock. Atlanta Rain still going to be halted here for the moment as Dante continues to harass.
I mean, Dante is one of those players that you look at, no matter who you are, whether you're an Outlaws fan or not, and you think, this guy could be one of the best Western players. He could be better than some top Koreans as well. He's on a weaker team at the moment, but his potential, it just feels like he shows higher and higher potential the longer the Overwatch League exists. It's insane. And this is another one of those moments where he's carrying a lot of these fights with Tracer alone.
Yeah, super solid stuff. Wall comes through, not going to be able to find too much with the Deadeye, and FRD actually bouncing the spheres in, manages to find 2 kills in the back end of that accretion onto Hydration. Now Meko going to be finished the whole hog, not doing a whole lot for him. Recall comes through, but Dante instantly greeted with death on the other side of that one. Raucus just going to be delaying for a little bit longer as he fades to the side. He'll get finished off, and that should be point B. Snatched up here for the Atlanta Rain, but again, this is the Houston Outlaws buying so much time off of the clock.
It's a huge time buy, and if they could stop C, that'll be big. Remember, their biggest challenge will probably be A on the attack. Streets phase, I think they'll have a lot more opportunities to work with the composition they're running, especially with Lynxer. But yeah, if they could stop this or slow it down to overtime, that would be massive.
Hydration on the corner, drops a supercharger, has to peel way back. We have to force out the sound barrier as well.
Dante's crazy.
Dante will manage to find Masa. He continues to do some seriously great work for the Houston Outlaws. The cart continues to roll. He's cut off, and you can see that Meko in the corner, left to his own devices, does fall. Cart getting ready to round the final corner with a minute 35 remaining. Hydration trying to dance around the shields and peel back. Boop comes through, they nearly get displaced out of that immortality field as Jexay tries to wall right up, but Dogman holds that right click down and does manage to finish him off. Flux out from FRD, finishes off Hydration. Now Lynx are going to be gone as well. FRD, unsung hero right now for the Atlanta Reign with this Sigma, since the swap over has been wildly impactful for them on this push. Nearly down below a minute, Cart continuing to inch forward. Dante trying to force out that sub-minute push here. Deadeye manages to find one as Dogman will fall. Is that pick going to be enough, however, for the Houston Outlaws to hold them off? It looks like the answer is going to be yes.
They've got so many respawns. Respawn advantage so massive here on King's Row. Dante gets a pulse here. He's going to be able to hold on to that one, and a hold is absolutely possible. In fact, it starts to feel likely here, as Atlanta Reign only really going to have that Gravitic Flux and a sound barrier for this final fight. If it goes really long, they will get the Molten Core, no doubt, but Houston Outlaws have the better tools. Raucus, I love this, is going to swap over to the Zenyatta. It's going to give him more poke and more burst damage as well. So good look for Houston.
22 seconds remaining. No
Pulse
ults available. Pulse bomb into the back. Dante finds two again. Gator and Masa both going to be taken down. Raucus with a headshot on the Baby Bay, and that is just going to be the cleanup. Dogman is the only one left alive with 10 seconds remaining. That is it. Stick a fork in them. Atlanta Reign on this push. They are done.
It's over. Edison swapping. Baby Bay swapping. They want to try to run in here and touch.
They're trying to get the tag. They do barely manage to force out the OT, but it's the cost of both of the supports. Now 4 members gone, and that will be the finish. Man, what a turnaround there at the end for the Houston Outlaws. And they have a very serious win condition now on their hands.
Yeah, if they could break A, I feel like, you know, we've got a potential of a Game 4 and maybe a Game 5 in the future. It was just hilarious to see, like, Dante gets that pulse right. It looks like it's going to be good. It hits 2. You and I get so hyped. The observer, like, instantly presses the hotkey for save highlight. Like, okay, that one's going in the clip later. You know?
Yeah.
That was a huge moment there that just guaranteed the advantages they needed. We talked about how Reign, you know, didn't have ults they really needed. And speaking of, save the highlight there. It almost goes. There we go. But watch this. We're actually going to get to see it from his first-person view. Look how far away he goes. It's the double blink here. The halt to set it up. So it's not just him. Hydration helps out here. And he gets the double. Insane play there. But,
yep.
You know, I feel like the Houston Outlaws had a great setup for A. They bought a lot of time. They were coordinated around Dante. You know, more than usual, even, I would argue, on the Streets phase. And this is the first map where you look at the Houston Outlaws and say, is this winnable? Like, can they actually take a map? Can they bring this series back? Showing us so far the Echo here, certainly a possibility to see that run. Atlanta Reign with the double shields. This is their strongest comp, one of their best maps for it. So getting through A is going to be the hardest part. If Houston can get a good time on A, or even just cap A at all, there's a real chance they could take this map away.
Looking for those opening shots here from Lynxer. Not going to be able to find too much. Dante puts the teleporter down. Does he swap back to the Echo?
Yeah, he does.
Yes. Okay. So we'll have Echo v Echo, but the big difference is going to be that there's Lynxer on this McCree to try and get Baby Bay out of the sky. They don't have a Mercy pocket to try and keep him sustained. Already one support going to be gone. And yeah, the Houston Outlaws, they are just piling on to the members of the Atlanta Reign.
For Houston.
Absolutely swept under the rug right there. That's the point A cap, barring a miracle, and it's going to be such a massive time bank here.
I mean, look, as you pointed out, there's no hit scan for the Reign to shut down Dante on the Echo. Houston come in, peel Atlanta apart. Baby has to play really defensively because he's such a glass cannon. And, you know, I mean, Houston Outlaws take this early. This is the hardest part, right? You know, you would think, given the Reign's proficiency with Gator on Orisa, FRD's Sigma, and they have such a big time bank now, the Houston Outlaws do, to turn this one around, and Lynxer's playing phenomenally. Let's not forget, Dante gets swapped to Tracer later here, too.
Yeah. High ground decently established here as well for the Houston Outlaws. You can see Masa trying to displace them, get them knocked out the backside window over towards point A. Beam coming through from Dante, not going to be able to find any kills, just going to be spamming away with a primary fire as Edison manages to find 2. Hydration and Lynxer both going to be finished off. And with a May, this is where things can get scary for the Houston Outlaws, trying to come through this initial choke.
Yeah, they're going to have Transcendence soon, and Duplicate as well. The Transcendence definitely going to be the big ultimate to force their way through that choke point. Masa doesn't have Sound Barrier yet, and it's not going to be the same amount of efficiency. They can force that fight with their Sigma ult as well, the Gravitic Flux. So they know Masa doesn't have sound barrier. There's a lot of great ways for Outlaws to engage, and it's going to be the Flux first.
Flux coming in. Dante managing to find one. FRD going to be finished off now. Dogman gone. Gator falling as well, and there's just no trade back to be found for the Atlanta Reign. They can't get any kills in that fight.
Dante goes ahead and uses Duplicate, so I think he might swap to Tracer here very shortly. He absolutely didn't need to use that. I think he just said, hey, I've got this. He is going to stick around with the Echo, though, on this point.
Yeah, Atlanta Reign can't go back and swap right now.
Yeah, they didn't use ults. Atlanta Reign didn't, because they wanted to take this next fight for B, but could come back to bite them. Remember, this is a 3:45 time bank here for the Houston Outlaws, and all they need to do is finish the map.
Yep. Shots coming through. You can hear those sticky bombs getting a smattering of damage in. Big 6, nearly there for the Reign. Dante the first one to fall. Dogman finds the kill. Baby Bay going to be using the Duplicate on Meko, so has an extra Sigma now. Extra accretion. Potentially that extra flux. He's getting closer and closer. We can see the peel back coming through. They don't want to have to deal with this. Oh, he gets it. Oh, but he loses it right in the middle.
Is there anything scarier than seeing 2 experimental barriers coming forward at you?
It's so much shielding.
So many shields. Oh my god. Well, he doesn't end up really needing it there, the Flux. They still win the fight. This is a big one, though. Trance is forced.
Yep. Blizzard comes through. Trance in response from Raucus to try to keep everybody alive, and so far is able to do so successfully. Dante flying up over the top, trying to get some of these tri-shots weaved in behind the double barrier setup of the Atlanta Reign. Immortality Field going to be used now. Matrix coming through. Breaks down that May wall as Dante is in such a poor position. Coalescence will just go ahead and hose him down.
The time bank is starting to fade away. And this is the worst place to get caught on King's Row, is right before B, because it has a really long run back, and your opponent has several high grounds they can hold, but Lynx are getting that pick. That could start things off on the right foot.
Yeah, forces the sound barrier from Masa as they try to take the fight up close and personal against the rest of the members of the Houston Outlaws, and Meko frozen. Has nothing to do and nowhere to go. He does get finished off. Dante jumps up over top of the high ground behind the barriers. Does manage to have the Duplicate online now. And he's just going to be duplicating Gator yet again, going for the Orisa. Trying to get that Supercharger online.
Gets burst down, though.
Yeah, will go ahead and expire. It does get forced out of that one. Raucus, another Transcendence. Build it up. It does go ahead and pop it. Keeps everybody alive for the moment. There's no defensive ultimates here for the side of the Atlanta Reign, so definitely a big opportunity for them to try and push through. The Flux already manages to find one as Edison will fall. The accretion follow-up on Namasa, and this will be them getting point B.
That was a really good transfer, Raucus.
Yeah,
I mean,
a lot less of a time bank than they would have liked, but still 248 to not even have to finish the map is still good.
And Lynxer is going to have so much of a great opportunity to get value on McCree here on C, especially when they have this high ground control. Look at where Dante is. Lynxer's going to get line of sight. Yeah, the trance there, Immortality Field, forces their way onto the point. Here comes
comes through from FRD, manages to find one or two. Immortality Field going to be finished off. Yeah, Matrix is out from Jexet as they look for some kills. For now, just have to break down those barriers.
Right now, it's all about Edison's Blizzard. He needs it to be big.
Yeah, Blizzard comes through. Trance still going to be 30% off of Raucus. He will just go ahead and get finished. Baby Bay managing to find 2 kills. And that's fine. This is the fight that the Outlaws should have anticipated. They knew that a lot of ultimates were stacked up for the Atlanta Reign. Now they have those gone.
Yeah.
And now the question just becomes, can they get the push going again?
Yeah, this is where Raucus is going to have another big trance again, I think. And Lynxer as well. You know, we talked about how he's going to have line of sight advantages. He does not anymore, and oh no, they don't know. They don't know.
They do not know. Sound barrier to start as they go ahead and push forward. Already gotten rid of Jexet. Now Raucus going to be taken down as well as Baby Bay shows off some quite nice tracking there in midair to find a kill.
That's
and
rough.
This will just be the cleanup. So another time buy coming through, building up slowly for those ultimates yet again are the Atlanta Reign.
Atlanta Reign didn't have to use anything for that. There's a free team fight that you take, you know, basically ultless.
Sound
really
barrier.
well played. I mean, yeah, sound barrier, sure, but you know, you use a sound barrier to get on top of everybody else. You don't have to use Echo, you don't have to use Blizzard. You can build those up for the big contest for the finish of the map.
Yep.
You're going to have those advantages there. You're going to force Raucus' trance long before that. That's the idea anyways. It's looking really good for Atlanta here now.
Flux coming through. That's a massive Flux, but cannot get the kills. Interrupted there before they get slammed back down. Dante now going to be taking over the Orisa. Another Flux coming through, and he cannot land the accretion to try and get the interrupt, so Linkser will fall to the ult. Beam coming through, however, does find Gator quite weak and manages to burn him down for the kill. Transcendence rolling from Raucous, now going to be expiring. Kept the rest of the team topped up, but Dante dead, killed by Masa as he hits the ground. 30 seconds now remaining. The Amp Matrix used around the corner.
So close. They were so close. Raucous' trance was well timed, but it just isn't enough. They're not able to follow up and get picks. Now Edison has Blizzard. Just so many ways this goes for Atlanta Reign here, and they're just going to push it in.
Yeah, they move forward. They drop the Blizzard. Mecco instantly dead. The beam coming through yet again. 12 seconds remaining. Edison will be taken down, but now Lynx are going to be falling. It's a 2-for-1 exchange at the hand of the Atlanta Reign, who now have the advantage. 4 seconds. Cart still rolling through. Dante manages to find one of the sticky bombs, getting rid of FRD, but Dogman takes him down. Now Hydration. Rocket's going to be gone. They got so close. The time bank was so good, but Houston Outlaws, they need to pull off a reverse sweep. Looks like they will not even be able to make it to the end of Kings Row. The OT will bleed away. And Atlanta Reign, in the end, will be able to take this series and get their first match victory here in the May tournament. But man, Houston Outlaws, they really gave them a run for their money at times, but it just wasn't good enough to get them across the finish line to get a map win on the board.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, that was Houston's best map of the 3. And, you know, as you say, it wasn't good enough. I think it was FRD who actually interrupted Mecco's Gravitic Flux there. That was the one thing. I mean, you said they used the sound barrier, and they didn't have that for the big Flux that came through. If that interrupt doesn't hit, sure, I mean, nobody's going to die. They're all full health, but it can lead to a fight that can start to snowball into the favor of Houston Outlaws. So huge play there. I believe it was FRD who stunned, but whoever was able to get that disabled there and prevent the Flux from going off, that's a massive play.
Yep.
They knew how to play around the trance, and so close. Like, I thought maybe we get to that 4th map, and Houston looked really good. It was smart plays. We had Linkser back in, but just a little bit better, I think, overall was the Atlanta Reign. Again, the coordination.
Yeah.
That's all you could say.
Looking pretty clean overall here for the Atlanta Reign. I mean, Edison especially looking phenomenal in, you know, on all of the DPS picks that we saw from him coming through. Baby Bay as well, looking quite good on the Echo as well as the Sombra. But yeah, we'll take a look at our player of the match here. It is, in fact, Edison for his phenomenal play throughout this entire series, but I think you got to give a very special shout-out to FRD for that last map because, man, was he just destroying people left, right, and center with that Sigma.
Yeah, it's great to see FRD back in the roster. He's always been a really, really strong flex support, and, you know, oftentimes was overshadowed by Dako through parts of the season last year, and now he's coming in, playing on the Sigma. You've got Gator on Orisa. You know, that's kind of a specialty main tank pick for Gator, and this is where Atlanta Reign is going to shine, right, is in double shields. I think even they are probably a little bit upset they had a weaker opponent this week when it is double shields as the meta. Probably would have liked to hit one of the tougher ones. You know, it was double shield. You know, when you hit Paris, you didn't have that. That sucks. And when you hit Philly, you didn't have that either. So you're probably feeling a little bit frustrated. I think Atlanta Reign is stronger than they look overall, but sometimes reliant on the hero pools, and that can be something that you really struggle with, especially when we go into that May tournament where if they make it in, that's not going to be a thing.
Yeah, well, this does give them a net positive so far in the 2020 season. I believe this is a 5-4 record now for them. So, you know, definitely hurt by facing off against some of the toughest opponents that we have in the league early on, you know, with that more condensed schedule. But now can start seeing those victories starting to get sprinkled in a little bit more frequently here. So it's a good first step for them in this May tournament, their first victory. So we'll be 1-1 so far in that regard. The Houston Outlaws, though, you know, there's clearly plenty of signs of life right now for this roster, for this team. I really liked the unorthodox swap that we had there with Hydration coming in for Muma at the end. It looked, you know, overall really good for the Orisa. Like you said, this was probably the strongest map that they did play in the series. Not to discredit Muma at all for the work that he did with the Winston especially and the Orisa in the first 2 maps, but I liked seeing that come through. I liked the Linkser swap in as well, so they had that hit scan to try and deal with Baby Bay's Echo in the air. Yeah,
I feel like with Houston, you can't be afraid to do stuff like that. I feel like you can't be afraid to put Hydration in, even though he's not a main tank player, quote-unquote. You can't be afraid to try things like that. especially given that he's played such great Wrecking Ball in the past, career-wise. You've got to take risks like that. You've got to put Linkser in. You've got to play your own style. That's where they look their strongest. Houston is, a group of 5, /6 really strong, individually talented players. I mean, incredibly talented players that for some reason can only go 90% of the way to being, a top 10, top 8 team. The last 10% is always missing. The coordination, sometimes misplays, sometimes just bad games. Every team has bad games. Seems like Houston seems to have a little bit more of those than everybody else. But I feel like they're so close to being a really solid team. And the unfortunate thing is it's been 3 seasons now, or almost 3, 2.5 seasons, and they still haven't been able to close that last gap. Hoping that that'll change in the coming weeks.
I mean, we have the May tournament going on right now, so it certainly is possible. And I think if they continue to put up performances like this, especially going up against an opponent that's not as well versed, perhaps, with the double barrier setup as Atlanta is, then Houston absolutely can be putting some more wins on the board and trying to claw their way back into a positive record on the season. I think that Houston fans, obviously, you could be disappointed, you could be upset about not being able to get the loss, but I think that you can still hold your head high and feel confident that there is a lot of potential for this roster. There's a lot of flexibility that we're seeing now. So as long as they continue to be willing to play around with different sets of players playing in, hydration coming in as main tank and whatnot more often, then I think that they could find a hell of a lot of success by the end of the 2020 season. So we just have to see how they continue to develop this talent and, how the meta is going to continue to develop and whatnot. So I think it's a very positive look for them overall.
Sure.
For now, be sad, but overall, be happy.
Yeah, I like that they have... I personally like... they made some small adjustments. They had Jexay and Meko, for example, bringing some Koreans into the team. I like that they keep their core, though. That's where their fans are. And I think that their core has a lot of potential, if they just try to get a Korean hit scan instead of Linkser, I feel like something's lost there, and I don't think Houston would ever be able to get that back. I think they need to just double down this roster and keep working with it and keep fine-tuning it. I know that's a controversial opinion, but I don't want to see this roster broken up. I don't want to see these players torn apart. I don't want to see a complete change. A lot of people are asking for, look, Vancouver Titans players, bring them in, but or former Vancouver Titans players, I should say.
True.
But
can we just call them runaway players now? Again?
Yeah, we can, I guess. Former runaway players.
Runaway and Fisher.
Runaway. But yeah, I think Houston, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I think one day we'll see Houston, up in that top 10, and people will respect them more than they do now. I really believe that.
It's got to happen eventually. Just look at the fluctuation that we've had from so many, other organizations who have gone from either being, a bottom team up into the top, or started off as a top team and then fell down to the bottom. You had Toronto last year, Boston in season 1, and then from where they're at. So the organizations can fluctuate. Houston has just always kind of been in the middle, so they need to break out to one side of the spectrum here, and we'll see where they go from there. But yeah, so we are standing by, guys. We're getting ready to have an interview with, or Zoe, rather, is getting ready to have an interview. We're not interviewing anybody, Wolf.
No, not us.
That's not our job. We're not very good at that.
No.
But Zoe is going to be having an interview coming up with none other than Dogman, false C9 proclaimer himself. So once they are ready to go, we will be able to dive into that and see what Dogman has to say, which I can imagine is going to be a lot of trash talk,
a lot of memes,
other people's expense that isn't necessarily backed up by anything factual.
Dogman is trying to get in people's heads with the C9. That's like one of those things where you're like, you already lost the map. You see Dogman type C9, you're like, it wasn't a C9. They're like, wait, whoa, he's getting in my head.
My favorite pastime is picking on Dogman, so I'm just going to continue to do this for
me too.
The rest of his career, because it's great.
He finally got the bowl cut last year. I thought he was going to dip out on that one forever.
Yeah, he kept asking me to follow him on Twitter, and I told him not until you get that bowl cut, dude. So he finally did do it. We had Bren do that, though.
Yeah, it was dangerous. I was a little bit worried. Dogman was scared, but it all worked out in the end.
Scissors and or a trimmer was very, very questionable by OSHA regulations, but we did manage to get done. But guys, it looks like the interview is ready to go, so Zoe, take it away. Let's hear from Dogman.
Thank you so much, Wolf and Seth. We are indeed ready. Dogman is joining us now. Thank you so much for dropping by.
Howdy, thanks for having me, Zoe.
Howdy, is that our new intro?
I don't know.
You're trying out some new things. I like it.
What's the official Overwatch hello?
Howdy, is it? Okay,
Hello
well,
there.
today I learned. Hello. Yeah, I think it's cheers loves for many people.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about the match we just got to watch. You guys went ahead and defeated the Houston Outlaws in a convincing 3-0 fashion. However, at times it actually did look a little bit closer than some people would have expected. Did the Outlaws actually come out with anything which surprised you, or was it just a little bit sloppy at times from your team?
I mean, not really. I think this week actually more than others, we've been probably the most prepared we could be in terms of our general game plan, what we do if we saw certain comps and stuff like that. There were a few mistakes on like maybe Kings Row, but I think besides that, it was pretty clean overall. And I think Gibraltar, personally, I had a couple like positional issues because we realistically with hero pools, you don't get all the practice that you'd like in the week. So like I didn't get to play that Moira on that spot very much. So realistically, I needed to know where like my team's going to be and stuff like that. So Ana was the preferred method of practice for most teams, except Outlaws played something a little different, for sure. But for the most part, we were expecting what they did.
Right on. Now, since you just mentioned the preparation and being able to really anticipate what the other teams are playing, earlier today I got to talk to Nico from the Paris Eternal, and he actually told me that he didn't really expect to see much Sombra Dive. However, every other team to date has been playing a lot of Sombra Dive. Are there different kind of scrim bubbles within the NA regions which we as viewers are not aware of?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, like, realistically, like, especially, like, I'm going to say again, with the hero pools, throughout the week, people are just trying to find out the meta. Like, realistically, it's hard to tell if you're improving or getting worse or whatever until the very end of the week. You then figure out, like, oh, this is the comp we're running. Like, pretty much yesterday, us and pretty much all the other, like, top teams probably just figured out the meta or comp before that week. And I know realistically, like, oh, metas don't exist anymore. They do. Like, Overwatch pros will always try to find the meta no matter what. That's what we do. It just takes more work. And I think by the end of the week, we figured it out. And sure, there's a bubble, and like people run different things, but for the most part, there's like two, majorly ran compositions.
So how do you feel the bubble is different in the Asian region? Did you feel within the past few weeks that it's been a major gap, or do you think that overall the teams are pretty aligned on what should be run?
I want to say something spicy, but I mean, realistically,
please do.
No, I can't.
No,
I
now
mean,
you can't tease it and not do it.
I mean, there's just a bunch of feeders over in the Asian scene. Like, realistically, it doesn't matter what they run. You know, we got Shock over here. We got some of the best teams in the league, baby. So, you know, screw the Asian scene. You know, it'll matter.
All right. This might come back to haunt you if you guys get stomped by any of the Asian teams. But you know, that's fine.
So wait. You know, New York actually ran from us before our match. You know that, right? Like, before we had a scheduled match for that weekend, but they were like, oh, I'm just going to fly out to Korea. And they just left, so they didn't get to play against us. You know, there's no fair testament.
Yeah, that's what a coward move that was from the NYXL. Absolutely. Now, that kind of threw me off. Anyway, I think I wanted to quickly chat about your next opponents. San Francisco Shock are up next. You have a good grasp on what kind of playstyle they're usually running, since you can't really prepare for compositions at the moment, since we don't really have the next week's hero pool draw.
Mm-hmm.
That was a question.
That was a question.
Yeah. Do you have a grasp on what kind of style you can expect from them? I think that was the question.
Yeah, I do. Sorry,
no, don't worry.
Realistically, yeah. I mean, there's like a couple like 3 or 4 like compositions that are ran for the most part like throughout the entire year. You know, there's like dive, there's brawl, there's poke. There's like full poke. There's like multi like variations of different types of comps that you need to be aware of. So it's just kind of like a puzzle piece that you figure out during the entire week. So realistically, with who is banned this week, we had Brig banned this week, and a couple. I imagine we might see a lot of Brig, because dive was so prevalent this week, and Brig pretty much, you know, kapoots on dive. So realistically, we'll probably see Brig come back in some sort of poke comp.
Right on. Okay, well, you sound definitely prepared and very confident as always, which I always appreciate. And that's pretty much it already with our interview. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me, Zoe.
Of course. And we are now heading into a very quick break, and then we are back with the last match of the day. And this time it is for real the LA Valiant and the Boston Uprising, not as I announced before. So stay tuned.